Okay, so the second panel will be looking at the practical approaches to managing your most important assets, recruiting and retaining talent. Really looking, I suppose, at a number of issues here. There we go. Thank you. Shortage of crews, attracting the right talent into a competitive market. What are the seafarers looking for from their employers as well? And creating a good employee experience. If I'm going to go do exactly what I did in the first panel and go from on the left-hand side here, please introduce yourself. A little bit of a 1 or 2 minute, just little policy statement on your thoughts, Panagiotis. That'd be lovely.
Yeah. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here. Hopefully, have a fruitful discussion. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Captain Panos. I work for Optimum, Scorpio Group, and I'm in charge I'm the head of crewing here in Optimum, along with the MANIC agencies in Manila, Philippines, and Russia, Vladivostok. So, thank you.
Brilliant. Okay. Amalia?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Amalia, and I'm the crew director of Enesel. We're a ship-owning company owning 30 ships. And I'm dealing with the crew and all the problems related to it.
Okay, can I ask all the panelists just to speak into the microphone rather than looking at me because people can't hear. That's lovely. Francesco, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Francesco Gargiulo. For those of you that don't know me in the room, I represent, in fact, most of you because I'm the Chief Executive Officer of IMEC, the International Maritime Employers Council, and we have quite a large number of members around the world, and in particular in Greece. I'm on this part of the panel, but I may as well have sat on the previous panel because a lot of what we do sits across the two areas. So whilst we are, our core business is industrial relations and negotiations with the unions in particular. So we are the ones sitting on the other side of the unions, deciding what a fair and equitable set of terms and conditions belongs to certain seafarers. We're also heavily involved, as a result of some of the work we do with the collective bargaining, we're heavily involved in training and ultimately recruitment. We have a fairly active recruitment and training committee, which obviously looks at the challenges we're all discussing, or we're meant to be discussing today. So I look forward to the debate.
Well, Francesco, I'm going to start with you, actually. Very much as on because you're looking after the employers at IMEC. But we're hearing a lot about shortage of seafarers. I think the International Chamber of Shipping came out about a year or so ago warning about the spectre again of shortage of seafarers in 2024. But have you seen a change in recent years and how, with regards to this, and how can you actually ensure that the industry has the people that we need? I mean, it's a big issue.
We've only got half an hour. But yes, I could be talking for hours about this. The reality is, first and foremost, we need to be clear about what shortages we're talking about. Because the seafarer is not one monolithic block.
No.
So when we talk about seafarers, we talk about two broad categories, really. One of them being the officers. And there is more jobs than there are those. And then the other one being the lower end of the spectrum there in terms of qualifications and skills. We're talking about the ratings, and certainly the less qualified, more standardized ratings. There's more of those than there are jobs. So when we talk about shortages here, we're talking specifically about officers or the more qualified senior ratings. And so that challenge is becoming bigger by the day. Our members continuously report massive issues with both recruiting and retaining those, because whilst some of them might be able to recruit them, then they are hard-pressed to retain them, because ultimately everybody wants a slice of a well-qualified, experienced officer, particularly in those trades that require higher skills. You know, we're talking about the wet trade, we're talking about the gas trade in particular. And so the more specialized officers are certainly sought after. We, as an organization, try and help whenever we can. And this is where we got involved in training. As some of you may or may not know, we run a number of schemes which are run solely for the benefit of our members and at no cost to our members. We have a fairly successful training scheme in the Philippines where every year we produce around 300 cadets, which are then joining the vessels of our members. Again, those are at no cost to members. Our training partners in the Philippines is MAP, and they are they're renowned as one of the top quality institutions as far as maritime training is concerned in the Philippines. We do something similar in India, where the objective is to release around 100 cadets every year into the new officer population. And we've started very recently something in South Africa, where again we're releasing in the region of 50 new officers. So what we're trying to do here, to answer your question more specifically, is we're trying to diversify, because we have, like everybody else in the room, noticed that there is a reticence when it comes to particularly OECD countries to join jobs at sea. It's harder and harder in places where I come from. I come from Italy, and there's less and less seafarers in Italy. I live in England, same situation. I hear similar stories here in Greece. So clearly, there's a shift away from the traditional maritime nations and towards alternative solutions. That's one of the things we do. We've also started doing something else for our members recently, and I don't want to monopolize this whole thing, but we've started to explore alternative markets. Alternative markets that some of the previous speakers were talking about. So we've been to South Africa, we've been to Ghana, we've been to Venezuela, we've been to Peru, we've been to Turkey. We're looking at a number of alternative solutions to the India, Philippines, Russia, Ukraine, and Eastern Europe as traditionally availed by our membership. And we're producing country reports, which are available for our members. These country reports are meant to provide people with the ABC, the first few steps, if you're interested in alternatives, if you're interested in looking elsewhere. And that's perhaps one of the services we provide when it comes to helping the industry with coming up with alternatives, coming up with the numbers they're looking for, particularly in those areas of higher expertise that everybody's struggling with.
Amalia, thank you very much indeed. Amalia, let me bring you in on this and just really your perspective on the shortage issue, because there's a lot of aspects there that are piling into that, as we just heard. What are your thoughts?
Yes, we as a company, we work a lot with cadets. We employ new cadets, and we try to slowly induct them into our ship, into our family. We work on individual career paths so that each seafarer knows which trainings and how to move on so that it gets higher license and gets a higher position and have a promotion path. And we focus a lot on their trainings, onboard training, landed training. We use virtual reality and cloud simulators so that they can make the training accessible everywhere around the world. And we focus a lot in not only recruiting, but retaining our seafarers within the company.
How big a problem is the retention aspect? Because, I mean, I think 15 years ago or so, when we had the financial crisis, we had a lot of poaching going on, and wages were going through the roof. And people and seafarers who would normally have a 10-year career at sea were staying at sea for 4 or 5 years and then going home and starting a business. I mean, how difficult is it to retain at the moment? What are the challenges?
Wages is one issue, but it's not the main issue. We have to be flexible with contract duration. We have to offer them a well-being on board facilities. We need good internet because it's a must nowadays to have a good internet to be in contact with their families, enable shore leaves. So it's not only focused on the wages nowadays, the seafarers, I will say. And also other benefits like the medical health or retention schemes that can attract them.
Thank you. Panos, let me bring you in on this. What is your perspective on this? And do you think, has the sort of profile changed in terms of the seafarers you're looking for now? I mean, what's your strategy on this?
Sorry. In regards to the shortage, yes, indeed, there is a shortage of qualified seafarers in all ranks. Not only.
You just sit a bit closer to
Yeah, sorry. Not only on the officer side, but also on the ratings. So this is a challenge we've been dealing over the last year and on a daily basis. In terms of strategies, there is a combination of strategies what we can do. There are the recruitment, the planning. What we offer is also a diversified policies in order not only to recruit them, but also to retain them. Everybody is looking for a career, a clear career and development plan. Of course, as Amalia said, is to provide competitive salaries. But I won't stand on the salaries because every company which has a certain level is something that provides to its seafarers. What makes the difference is the trust and the care you show to the seafarer from day one when the recruitment starts, and for the rest of the relationship and the journey you build with him. In regards to the question you made for the profile, if something has changed, I will say that in terms of profile, I wouldn't say so that something has changed. We are all looking for qualified seafarers. We are all looking to the best possible recruitment. What has changed is the means we have in our possession, and I'm referring to technology, and I'm referring to what we can use in order to attract, recruit, and retain a seafarer for the next years to come.
Okay, and it is an issue, and I think people do benchmark themselves, and companies do benchmark themselves on that. But what are the knock-on effects? Because I think when you look at seafarers who are going ashore, maybe wanting to go ashore in the countries where they live, that's pushing a lot of the back office operations like the superintendency roles into other parts of the world as well, isn't it? So there's a lot of pressure and the knock-on effect with going ashore after a career at sea.
I'm not sure I understand the question. You're referring to seafarers that quitting their job?
Yeah, I think the attraction of going to sea is that there's a career afterwards, and a lot of seafarers go and become superintendents or go ashore.
Yeah. That's true. I think that we are facing this mostly with the Z generation or the millennials. I mean, the new generation, they have almost the same standards that we used to have, I mean, the older generation, but they are more clear on what they want and until when they want it. Before, the previous panel had also made a reference for the women career on board, which is very crucial, and for sure is going to solve and provide solution to our problem in regards to the ongoing numbers that have been reducing. But women on board, most likely because the women like to become mothers, they like to have to create their own families. I'm not so sure until which rank they can go. In regards to the how long, I mean, they can continue their career on board. In regards to the new generation pursuing careers ashore, I think that it is something that we have to deal with as we're progressing. We do not know yet when and who is readily qualified to do so. So we're going to deal when the time comes. But the secret to all, as I said, is to show the care, to provide the right benefits, and create a strong bond, a relationship with the seafarer for the entire career. Thank you.
Thank you. Francesco, can I bring you in on this now? One of the areas is, what are seafarers looking for from the shipping industry for a career at sea? Well, what are they telling the employers?
Thank you. Yeah, they are not what we used to. They're looking for different things. New generations have lost that dream of job for life, which I suppose was perhaps our dream when we went to sea, when we started our own careers. I have 3 children, and my 3 boys want very different things from what I wanted when I was their age. More importantly, they are after quality of life. We had a fire in the belly. We wanted to get places. Yeah. We were prepared to do whatever it took to get to where we wanted to get to. Or at least I was. I was fairly clear and focused. My children are not. They're certainly more interested in balance between work and play. And that's one of the things that obviously makes a difference. Something else that makes a difference, they are much more digitally savvy. And that digitally savviness means they are more adept at certain jobs, less keen on manual jobs, at least that's my experience. And most importantly, and we go back to what the previous panel was talking about, because they were born with an iPad in their hands, communication is so crucial for them. So it's no surprise that in conversations with the ITF and talking about renewals of our ongoing terms and conditions, internet comes up a lot. Access to the internet anytime, any place, for free, unlimited. Those are the sort of conversations we have all the time. And ultimately, one of the issues that tries to address is that both it wants the job to be attractive to the new generation was born with this. They take it for granted. We didn't. I grew up without a cell phone. I mean, it's amazing to think about this now. And my kids have had gadgets from day one, really. And the other thing that we are talking about, again, with the ITF, is linked to the other thing I've just mentioned, which is the balance between work and life, between work and play. And so we're talking about shorter contracts. So what is it that they're looking for? They're looking for quality of life, along with a job that provides them a career. I mean, every time I go to see our cadets in any of the schemes we have around the world, I make the point, we're not looking for third mates, we're not looking for fourth engineers, we're looking for people that eventually become chief engineer, captains, superintendents, fleet managers. That's what the industry is looking for them.
Yeah.
The problem we encounter very often is no matter how hard you want something, the reality is people want it quicker than you are prepared to give it to them. And that's a challenge that the industry is going to have to contend with.
I mean, just touching on the whole issue of internet, and I was speaking to a maritime doctor this week, actually, and he was saying there's a lot of debate in the industry about fatigue on board ship, and it's a major issue. But then, of course, you've got seafarers going to their cabins and they're spending hours on text and not sleeping. So because you've given them access to communication, they're therefore not getting the rest and they're getting fatigue. What are your thoughts on?
Yeah, if I can add to that, it's a double-edged sword. Yes, the new generation are used to have access to this means of communication. That brings about a lot of other consequences. Some of them are fairly negative because we talk about isolation. In the old days, the crew would meet after hours and socialize. Nowadays, everybody goes back to their cabins. In the old days, you know, when you have your work and rest hours were rest hours. And nowadays, you provide them with Starlink, and all they want to do is be on the internet. Also, and something we haven't explored yet, is being able to communicate with families back home means being exposed to all of their problems, all of their day-to-day challenges, which you can't address because you're not there. And so there's a sense of impotence that actually is creating massive frustration amongst the younger generations, and actually leads to them saying, you know what, this job doesn't do for me. I need to be there for them. This is the stuff that they didn't used to be able to see.
I want to come on to the issue of enabling the seafarers to perform. How can companies and organisations create effective onboarding processes? And panels, maybe get your thoughts on this to help maritime professionals integrate into their roles and into the industry seamlessly, because it is about the training. We've heard it with the presentations earlier. But what can be done more to actually achieve that, do you think?
Well, we cover, I think, the aspect from training. I mean, training is all about investing in order at some point to get what you have invested. We cannot have expectation from our seafarers unless we provide the right tools, and training is the most fundamental tool in order to get what we want. Now, in regards from what the organization can do in order to support this, I think that from day one they should provide clear expectation and guidelines on what we expect from the seafarers to allow sufficient time for handover on board and for familiarization to work towards that, use the technology that we have, the digitization, the connectivity, and I think this is the right way to proceed towards that direction.
Bringing Amalia in, if I may, where do you see the big skills gaps at the moment then, when you're looking at the seafarers? You know, what areas need to be focused in on, would you say?
I will say that with all the new regulation and energy efficiency, then they have to be educated in environmental issues and sustainability and all these issues that they need to develop now, the new skills and the new. This is the biggest gap that I will identify at this moment.
Okay. Francesco, and really to prime the audience as well, if you have any questions that you want to be asking on this, please stick your hand up. Oh, okay, we've got one already. So I think we've got a microphone there at the back there. If you can introduce yourself, please, that'd be good.
Is it on?
Yeah, it should be on.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephen Popovich. I'm working for Martrust, which is part of Marcou Group. We are the largest global maritime payroll provider for the crew. We serve over 500 companies with payroll services and paying their crew. And I'm really encouraged by what I've heard from the panel that the crew retention is one at almost at the top of the agenda. We've noticed that a lot of crew are actually quite concerned about receiving their money and funds allotments on time, timely, efficiently, and having access to their funds all the time, 24/7, and this is what we provide. Secondly, I've heard a view from Francesco that was saying that technology at the moment is crucial, and then seafarers are getting incredibly e-savvy. They're using their applications. So this is exactly what we do, providing an e-wallet which connects the seafarer with the onshore team with the master. And my question is, we are faced with incredible amount of resistance from a traditionally conservative industry which resists the change and in digitalizing the whole process. What is your advice? How to actually approach and how to broach the subject and how to approach the shipping companies in convincing them this is the right thing to do?
Francesco, do you want to have a go at that one?
I can have a go at that one. Lovely sales pitch. The reality is, you nailed it in terms of it's a very traditional industry. It's a very traditional industry, not just when it comes to communication, when it comes to a lot of things. I've allow me one little deviation. We launched a number of training programs. We have a fitter training program in India. We have a new training program in South Africa, and so on and so forth. We've gone to South America. We've gone to Africa. And one of the hardest things to do is to convince people to do something different from what they've been used to. You wouldn't believe how difficult it is. Now, going back to technology and money and payments, I think the single biggest boom you've got from the shipping industry was the war in Ukraine, because a lot of people looked at you guys as a potential solution because it became incredibly difficult to pay people through those loopholes, very few loopholes left when the sanctions really kicked in. And so sometimes, unfortunately, it's adversity that gets people to actually change their standard paths. From a personal perspective, it took us some quite hard negotiating to allow the ITF, to convince the ITF to allow e-wallets and cash cards on the collective bargaining agreement. You would have thought this is something they would push rather than we would push, but we had to negotiate it. We had to give them something to get something. And that's unfortunately a picture of some of the challenges we experience within the industry. It's not easy. It's not easy, I feel you. You've got some competitors, not a huge number of competitors. So I'm sure you guys are doing all right. But there's plenty more out there. Yes.
Coming back to the sort of core issue here of onboarding and what have you, but looking at how to find the seafarers with the right talent. Now, the industry is digitizing, there's no doubt about it. It is going aggressively down that path. How ready do you think we are as an industry to tackle the big issues of digitalisation and decarbonisation? Fuels, again, another issue there for training, age population, yourself, and then maybe Panos after that as well.
Digitalization and decarbonisation are two different but related issues, I suppose. I should say that up until 6 months ago, I thought the industry was way behind when it comes to both. I've been educated since. I've actually spent some time with a number of ship owners, and I've seen the degree to which they have gone in terms of getting ready for a future which is not really a remote future. It's a very near future.
Yeah.
And in fact, in some cases, it's the present. I talk to more and more members who have embraced digitalization, who are building vessels that will have alternative fuels, which will allow them to continue to operate in a zero carbon, net zero carbon economy at some point in the near future. So whilst I was a little bit pessimistic and a little bit concerned, I'm less so having had those conversations. Having said that, there's a few leading players who are doing the right thing. There's a lot of people that are still waiting to see who is going to be the next Betamax, because ultimately that's what the concern is from a lot of people. A lot of people are waiting for others to be pioneers, to experiment, to find what the next alternative fuel is, what the new engines are going to look like, to start training people to operate with those new fuels and those new engines, and then they're going to jump in. So not everybody wants to be VHS in this comparison, and nobody wants to be Betamax and be forgotten. I mean, I see some young faces looking at me saying, what is he talking about? For those of you that have a few of the grey hair I've got, you'll remember that when video cassettes came on, there was two standards. Well, the one you've never heard of, Betamax, was seen as one of the options. But the fact that you haven't heard of them tells you what happened to them.
Panos, let me bring you in on this. I mean, the whole issue of digitalisation, and maybe with a bit of a backdrop to the Greek market as well, and how the owners here are embracing that.
Well, I think that we're not ready. We're not to the right level, both in terms of
Speak a bit closer, yeah.
both in terms of digitalization and decarbonization. I think that many efforts need to be done towards that direction in terms of training and maybe by hosting targeted campaigns. In regards to digitalization, well, the new era shows us how unprepared we are in terms of having the right people, prepare them to have the right technological and digitalized skills. We're not ready yet, but of course we are going to the right direction. We're making the efforts that need to be done. In terms of decarbonization, there are companies that are, let's say, more prepared rather than other ones. They have some more clear strategy. They have targeted teams working for the decarbonization. But I think there is still a long way to go. Thank you.
Amalia, have you the last word? Have you got your thoughts here on how ready the industry is regarding these?
There's definitely a long way to go, but we have made some significant steps towards digitalization. There is on board a digital library, and the people are already familiar with cybersecurity, so there is a lot going on digital training for seafarers. And now decarbonization is a bit more difficult because, yes, as already mentioned, most of the companies are waiting to see the results of the first trials, and then to decide where and which direction they will follow.
Okay, thank you. Well, as always with debates like this, we could go on for another hour. I'm getting Raoul giving me sort of 1 minute to go and 30 seconds to go and what have you. I'd like to thank Danica and OTG for today. A lot of hard work in putting this program together. I'd like to thank you as an audience. You've been tremendous. It's lovely seeing a full room. It's been tremendous. And thank you for your contributions. And I'd like to thank this excellent panel again, and certainly with our briefing sessions we had in the run-up today, but also for your time today and for your wisdom in your answers as well. Could you please give the panel a round of applause? Thank you very much.